Hi everyone, and welcome to Tuesday's Tips with Kimberbell. I'm Lauri, and today I'm so excited to share with you some tips on background quilting. So I wanted to talk about three really important things. First of all, design size. Second of all, hoop size. And third of all, embroidery field size. Those are three different things, and they can be a little bit confusing. And I wanted to share with you how and what the differences are with those three things, as well as a couple of other tips on our background quilting, one of which I think you're going to absolutely love. All right, so to start with, we're going to talk a little bit about the designs that we have on My Kimberbell website. So if you go to mykimberbell.com, you're going to find a bunch of background quilting that you could use. And we have a lot of designs already there. This is one of them. This is called Patriotic One. And this is the one we used on our Main Street celebration bench pillow, which you're going to love that one. And I also wanted to let you know there's of course always going to be more. We always love having more. All right, and then what I have here on this poster is actually, these are the different sizes that are available when you purchase a package. So they all come together and you can pick and choose which sizes work best for your project. Now I want to explain one thing. These numbers at the top, or when you're on your computer screen and you can see them a little bit better. For example, this says 6x8, 6x10, 4x4, 4x6. Those are meant to help you with a specific project in mind. So if you've got a project that's 8x6 and you would want to use the 6x8, and you can rotate it if you need to. Now, the other cool thing is, let's say you have a smaller hoop, you can use the 4x6 and it equals the 8x6. Because you've got 4 twice, you would just double hoop it, right? So that's something that you can figure out and do. But for right now, today, I wanted to explain those differences. It's really important to understand 4x4 means that the design itself inside the actual background quilting is 4 inches by 4 inches. And as you can see, there's some boxes around the outside edges of each one of these designs. I'm going to explain what those boxes are for and how you use those. Now the other thing is, that means that if you've got extra boxes outside the design, that means the design needs to have a little bit larger embroidery field. What do we mean by embroidery field? Well, let me show you. So I've got several different hoops here from several different machines, and what I love is there's just such a great variety of machines that you can use, as well as hoops. Now, to make everything fit in all of everybody's hoops, it was a little bit tricky, right? So that's why we've come up with those design sizes, because they actually match the project, and that's the most important. Now, if you just pick whichever hoop works best for the size that you're wanting to stitch out, that is the other important part. So, for example, some of these are called SQ something, some of these are called middies. There's different names for different ones. They come in millimeters, they come in inches, so every hoop's slightly different. The most important thing is that you know what size your hoop is. And the third thing is that you know what size your embroidery field is. For example, I'm going to grab this one right here. The embroidery, this is a hoop size. It's a 6 by, I believe, 11 or 12, but it's called a mega hoop. So the hoop size is a specific size. Let's say it's 6 inches exactly across, okay? That means the embroidery field size is not a full 6 inches, but your embroidery field size is slightly smaller. The reason it's slightly smaller is because there's like an invisible force field, if you will, around the outside edge of your design, and before you would touch or hit the inside of the hoop. That's just to prevent your presser foot and your needle from hitting or damaging the inside of the hoop. So there's like this no man's land right around the inside edge of your hoop that the embroidery design cannot go. All right, it won't let you, the machine won't let you do that. So a lot of people have wondered about that. And so if you understand that concept, that there's an embroidery field that's smaller than your actual hoop size, and you understand the concept of how these background quiltings are done, then it will make much more sense to you. All right, so I'm going to explain a little bit more what those boxes are really quickly, and then I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to utilize your hoops better with these embroidery designs, the background quilting designs. All right, so right here I have stitched out the batting line, which is the very first box that you'll see, and the outside fabric line. So there's a reason why the batting is slightly smaller than your fabric. If anybody out there can guess, I'm sure it's because you know that when you go to sew your seam, you don't want batting on all four corners twice, on every single side. That really makes something bulky, right? And we don't want the bulk. So the reason why there's a batting placement and trimming line is for you to place your batting, then trim your batting, and then the outside is a placement for your fabric, and it also will tack it down. Now at any point, if you don't want to use some of those lines, just skip them. It's okay, you can do that too. But what I do want to point out is the inside line is 4 inches by 4 inches, which means the outside line is 4.5 by 4.5 inches. Which means what? It means that the actual embroidery design field that you're going to need is 4.5 by 4.5. So I have a 4x4 hoop at home, and in my 4x4 inch hoop, it doesn't fit a 4.5 by 4.5 inch design because my embroidery field size is only 3.91. So what do I do about that? I'm going to show you coming up. It's a tip that I wanted to share with you. All right, before we get to that, I wanted to show one other thing right here. You can see here that I've got the batting already tacked down, and I've done my placement line for my fabric. I've laid my fabric down, and I started my fabric placement line or tack down line. This is step number 4. The reason I'm going to point that out is that's the step you can skip if you want, if you don't want this on the top of your quilting. Now, if you're just using it the regular size, the regular way, it will be cut away, so it doesn't really matter. It's a good way to tack this down so it doesn't shift or pucker on you. All right, I wanted to show you one other thing. I can't tell you how much I love this particular Kimberbell batting. It's our project batting. That's what I use on almost all of these. 2 reasons why I really like it. First of all, it washes well, and it's a poly cotton blend. The second reason is it's a very small loft, but it's a nice dense feel to it so that it will look really good with the quilting, but it doesn't get too bulky if you're trying to sew around it. So I really recommend that. All right, so now we have here, this is the finished of the 4x4, and as you can see, I'm going to show you with our orange pop ruler right here that outside line is exactly, if I can do this and show it really well, it's exactly 4.5 by 4.5, right? So if you wanted to, and I love using the orange pop rulers to trim, so you could trim right on that line. Your design is pulled in 1/4 inch away from that line so that when you stitch your projects together, your blocks, if you will, together with that 1/4 inch seam, none of your quilting will get caught in the seam. It will all be in the middle of your block, and I love that. And that's one of the reasons these designs were done in those specific sizes, so that would happen for you. Okay, so what if you don't have a hoop like I do? My 4x4 hoop was just a little too small in order to accommodate this 4x4 design. Well, guess what? You actually can shrink it. A lot of machines, you can shrink it slightly on the machine itself, but if you need to shrink it just a little bit more than what your machine allows you to, that's not a problem. I'm going to share with you what you could do to shrink that. It's an application that I'll explain in a minute. But what I wanted to share with you was, this is step number 4, and I wanted you to see, I'm going to pop this out of the hoop so you can actually see the 2 compared side by side. All right, so here's the one, and the other one I just showed you. So it was exactly, that outside line was exactly the 4.5 by 4.5 that you're going to trim right off. So this one it actually frames it really well. You can still trim this at the same size and use that same block. However, you have this stitch on the inside. Now you can leave that and use that as your stitch in the ditch line, which is really helpful. Later on, if you add a back, you can just stitch right on that box line and there's your stitching in the ditch. Or if you prefer and you don't want it on there, you can actually skip step number 4, which is what we were talking about earlier. You just skip step number 4 and instead tape it down thoroughly with our Kimberbell paper tape, and you can still just stitch out the inside and you're going to have a great background quilting stitch. I love these, and I'll just let you compare. You can see they're slightly different sizes, but they're still stitched very well. This one's stitched just as beautifully as the original size. So I'm going to quickly now show you and tell you what that application is. It's called True Sizer by Wilcom, and I just wanted to show you the little icon here. It's right here on my computer. This is what the icon would look like, and it's a free download. What they have is they have several versions, and some of their older versions are free for you, and you can just download this one right here. It's called True Sizer, and it looks like a TS together, and that's exactly what you would want to download for that. Now, some of you may already have your own software out there, which is perfect. There is no problem with you using your other software that you may already have. I hope that these tips helped you today. Do we have any questions out there? Great. Well, you guys, it's been wonderful talking to you live today, and I've really enjoyed sharing Tuesday tips with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.